10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Look, up in the sky, it's a bird.
It's a plane!
There's no need to fear.
I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, cause I'm black.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Super Black, an all-black panel podcasting experience where we talk about all things superhero, past, present, and future. From Marvel and DC to anime, there is no stone we will leave unturned as we take a deep dive into the genre of superpowered individuals and the worlds they inhabit. I am your friendly neighborhood host, Zuri Washington. I use she, her pronouns, and you can follow me on IG at Zuri with a fringe on top. That's Zuri with a Z, not Suri with an S. I'll leave it to the rest of today's super panel to introduce themselves. Take it away.
Hello, my name is Sheridan. My pronouns are she, her, and you can follow me on Instagram at Island Zephyr Cooks for pics of food and stuff.
Hello, my name is Rolls Andre. My pronouns are he, him. I'm an actor and OG fanboy. I'm on IG as Rollsy, ROLLSIE. Holla at me!
Hey, I'm Corinne Scott. Also, my Instagram, my pronouns are she, her. Instagram is at I am Corinne Scott. Corinne is spelled 1 R, 2 N's, and an E. It's usually pictures of my dog / I have many opinions.
And as always, don't forget to follow us on IG at Super Black Podcast, or you can follow us on Twitter at Super Podcast. But now that we're all assembled, let's get started. So today's topic of discussion, we're going to talk about DC properties that we wish that Warner Brothers would adapt to the live action, to the big screen, as it were, other than Batman and Superman. Because as I've discussed, I love the shit out of Batman. But that being said, it gets old. Mm-hmm. Do we need another one? I felt the same about the Batman until I saw it, and I was like, okay, that was good. But most of the time, it's just too much of the same, because it's very clear that they're trying to make money off of their more recognizable properties as opposed to tell a good story. So I know that Rolls has a lot of ideas about this, so I'll let him start off.
Well, it begs the question, why a company that has 70 years of continuity seems to only focus on like 2 of their characters. Granted, they're 2 of their most famous characters, and I think that's great, but DC has a lot going for it, and they're not using these characters. So I sent out a brief to Zuri earlier with some stuff, but I left off one of the obvious ones, and I'm going to start with that.
Okay.
I think that Alan Moore is one of the greatest writers in comics of all time, but his movies have been butchered. Butchered. And I think they're like Watchmen, V for Vendetta, and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen are pretty bad. Those are pretty bad movies.
Yeah.
Would you agree? Would you agree?
Well, Watchmen, yes.
I liked V for Vendetta, but I didn't have the comic background, so
right.
I thought
I didn't know.
Was fine.
Yeah,
it's fine. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, also fine. I think at the time that it came out, I couldn't have been older than 12, and I think I just enjoyed it because I was like, "Ooh, Sean Connery." And was it not Josh Hartnett? Who was
the guy who was Dorian Gray?
No, not the Dorian Gray.
The not Indiana Jones one.
Yeah, that one. Whoever that was. But I enjoyed the concept of it more maybe than the execution.
Yes.
And that's probably what it was.
It's a great comic book. It's a great comic. And the thing is, the thing that blew me away the first moments of watching that movie was the car chase in Venice. Not Venice, California, Venice, Italy.
Venice, Italy.
It's you don't have cars in Venice. They take it around by canals.
That's hilarious.
Like I was like, wow, like that's really bad. Like that's the beginning. So the thing is, so when I was a kid though, they made Swamp Thing movies, but they were tongue in cheek, and I don't think the present generation would really remember them. So I'm thinking like the Swamp Thing would be a wonderful. It's this Alan Moore, Marv Wolfman, I believe came his character. This guy who was in an accident. He was a chemist, and he was in an accident in the swamp, and he morphs with the swamp and becomes this Swamp Thing. But when Alan Moore took it over, he had it that the Swamp Thing's memories of being human were a fiction. That he was no longer this person. He had it in his memory. And so he was no longer human at all. And it started off with this really tragic note. And then it became like, it got into all this like stuff about like supernatural adventures. They introduced John Constantine in his original script with Alan Moore. And they did.
No, I was just saying Constantine. They need to do that correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Alan Moore saw Sting and said he'd make a good character, and he created John Constantine. But anyway, yeah.
That's funny.
The Swamp Thing would be great.
That would be great. It makes me think.
The Swamp Thing would be great because you could have a CGI character like be the lead in the movie, and it would be believable because how else could you create what the Swamp Thing is supposed to look like? He's like a big mass of like green, and it'd be CGI and it'd be believable.
I think what speaking of Swamp Thing, and this is Batman adjacent, but not about the Batman itself. Because they've been talking about what villains make sense to do in the next iteration of the Batman series. And I would love, they talk about like how Clayface is too fantastical, or even that Mr. Freeze is too fantastical. And I'm like,
I'm sorry.
What?
That doesn't make sense.
I think on the same level of the Swamp Thing, it's a scientific accident that creates these things, right? Like I think that they all make sense in the realm of possibility within the world of the world building of whatever comic that they come from. So I would love to see Clayface. I would love to see the Swamp Thing. I would love to see. Didn't they have a series recently that was supposed to be the Swamp Thing, but it ended up getting canceled? I swear that was recent. That was like less than 3 years ago, I want to say. Where thank you Google, because I remember people talking about it and it was getting some buzz, but because of circumstances happening with the production, the entire thing got scrapped, which was unfortunate.
You are correct,
right? Yes.
Interesting.
What is it? It was supposed to be a movie?
No.
Series.
It was going to be a series on Disney 2019. The first season is out there. It's a horror series. It did not get renewed.
It did not get renewed.
Swamp Thing.
Yeah, the Swamp
Apple
Thing.
TV.
Wow, that's right.
Right? Like, right when you start to think about it, you're like, I remember that this happened.
Oh, wow.
No, but this is still, but because it didn't take off, I still considered this a good option. I think it's kind of like sometimes production is what plagues some of these things. It's either Warner Brothers is stupid, which is a whole other thing. But please hire me. But sometimes Warner Brothers is stupid. But then there's also like with the case with Firefly from back in the early 2000s, they aired it out of order, so no one knew what was happening, and the whole thing got scrapped. It got canceled. But meanwhile, it's one of the best sci-fi, especially contemporary. It's one of the best sci-fi space cowboy kind of genre things, spaghetti western kind of things that's happened in years. And Joss Whedon, problematic things aside, was very visionary when it came to a lot of what he put out, a lot of the content that he put out in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yes.
So when I look up Swamp Thing, it says the genre is horror.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I'm into it.
they put this
I
very
mean, I'm definitely
seriously.
gonna watch it.
I want to watch it. Just freaking.
Oh, it
Apple
was going to
TV.
be on the CW.
Yes, it
Oh.
was gonna be on the CW.
Oh, that makes sense.
Which doesn't really. I'm curious how it fit in with their their demographic and how they
Mhm.
usually peddle shows.
Well,
Mhm.
here's
It's
the
not the Swamp Thing.
there's a skinny white girl.
Right, that's it.
With
That's
brown hair on the
the
front cover. So
Right,
Mhm.
that
that's
was
how
it.
we got him.
That's all I got.
I mean, the thing is it was really. I mean, the problem is when you see someone like Alan Moore and you read his stuff on the page and you see that there's been no real faithful adaptation, it kind of hurts you. But I mean, whatever. V for Vendetta, I know a lot of people liked it. It's just if you read those books, they were just so good. And
Mhm.
and Watchmen was, I mean, that was fine. Watchmen was perfectly fine.
And when you're
That was
talking about the
acceptable.
movie.
That was
You're talking
the
about the
movie.
movie,
The
not
TV
the
show
series.
was off.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You
the
think the
series
TV show was
next
awful?
level, but like
No,
it was
disagree.
next level.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, he said
what?
awesome. He said awesome. Yeah, it kind of cut off, but I knew
I
it
was
was
like-
awesome.
Okay.
I was like, whoa.
We were gonna have to fight. Like this is gonna have to just be a fight about
We're
watching
gonna
the
have to-
I
series.
said it was awesome and next level.
Great,
Yes,
great.
yes.
Okay, agreed.
Correct.
And what
I heard you, Rolls. I heard you.
Thank you, Sheridan. Thank you.
what I think that Watchmen the series did well, what they did well, and where the movie failed, even though obviously Watchmen the movie is supposed to be a closer at an actual adaptation of the graphic novel.
Yes.
Where they failed was there were some weird changes that they made that I was like, that doesn't make sense. And I think Watchmen is so, the way it is written, you can't change things in that. Like, because of how nitty gritty that Alan Moore gets into with the details of the plot.
It's
if you change
specific.
one thing, it completely changes the ramifications of other things to come. And I think that there were just a lot of mistakes made in the adaptation. I think Zack Snyder needs to stop touching comic books, honestly, in general. Just get out of it. Just stop. I'm done with you. I'm done with you. Another
Make race car
genre.
movies or something.
Make 300 part 40. I don't care, but just stop touching my actual like superhero genre comic books.
Mhm.
And I think what Watchmen did the series did really well was it was faithful to the ideas. It was faithful to the ideas and the kind of execution of the twists and the turns. I was on the edge of my seat, and I actually read Watchmen later. I read the graphic novel after I saw the series because I was like, what is this thing? Like I've known of Watchmen for years, but reading it afterwards, I said, this show was so smart that it really still blows my mind. Like just the connections that they made to these small inconsequential things that happened in the graphic novel that they then turn into these really big moments in the series was just phenomenal work by what's his name, Lindelof. And especially given his history of Lost, I was very concerned. Just where Lost went after a point, I was really concerned, and he proved me wrong. So good for him. I'm glad it ended after a season. I'm one of those people who's like, nope, it was good as it is. Let's not continue this. Let's just leave it.
I mean, he called the show Lost, and that's what I was. So I was like, I can't.
I don't know.
He didn't lie.
He didn't lie. He didn't lie. He said, "You gonna get what you gonna get," and that's what the title is.
But on a serious note, I think he became a better storyteller over time. I think he saw some of the pitfalls that he's usually prone to falling into, and did not do that with Watchmen.
Yes.
But his style lent itself to that. And I think kind of jumping to another character, what I'm really excited about, I'm excited on a Marvel level with Moon Knight coming out. We're recording this. Moon Knight has not yet come out. But that's exciting because I think that one of the other characters you mentioned, Rolls, was Blue Beetle. And I see a lot of similarities in the general character development of it all. So I mean, I'm hopeful that DC will just take a page from Marvel and be like, oh, that did well. Let's try that. Because Blue Beetle's all over Young Justice.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
It's funny. Like,
it's funny, but it's also like it's funny but sad, and he's just kind of all over the place, and you're like hopeful that he can overcome this really dark voice that inhabits his being. So I would be really interested in a Blue Beetle adaptation, and it would be a great opportunity for a young actor. I would love to see, we're
young
getting
actor who's not white.
Who's not white.
That part.
That's a great. It's a double whammy. Honestly, I think it would be a double win for DC Warner Brothers in general. Yeah. Because Young Avengers is coming up. We know it. It's coming up. They're telegraphing it for us.
Yep.
We see what's his name's grandson in Falcon and Winter Soldier. We have Wanda's twins. We have Miss Marvel coming up. We have Kate Bishop. We have maybe one or two others that I'm not remembering right now.
What's the girls in Iron? Riri Williams.
Oh yeah. Is that Oh yeah. Ironheart.
Ironheart, yeah.
That one. So there's so many things coming up, and that I'm really excited about. And so I hope that DC looks at their Young Justice and just does that. I just need Bruce Timm to be involved. This is what I want. Bruce Timm needs to be involved in the live action adaptations of DC stuff. I don't know where he is on all of this, or if he's turned it down, or if they're like, well, you do animation, so stick in your lane, which feels so wrong to me, because he is literally the reason that DC exists today. I don't care what anyone says, because DC has been going down the tube for a variety of reasons, both in the comics side of it and as it pertains to their movies and whatnot. So go to the one person who actually knows what they're doing and like change your franchise with Batman the animated series. Like, I just don't understand. It's very confusing to me.
They don't know what's best for them.
Justice League, all of those shows, and most of the movies that came out in the 2000s, 2010s, he had at least some hand in. He was like, even if he wasn't the main writer, he was executive producer, and he was just kind of there being like, yeah, that makes sense, no, don't do that, blah 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 blah. I think the only thing that is a blip on his resume for me is The Killing Joke, but that's a whole other The Killing Joke animated bit. Gotcha. That was not great. It's on Netflix if you want to watch it, but I can't watch it again. It was too much.
Killing Joke?
Yeah.
The Killing Joke, yeah. It was
Killing Joke.
Animated version of it.
Yeah.
Not the book.
Yeah. It was different. The movie was different.
Because that was like a fanboy theory that just went awry. In my opinion, like, some fanboy theories are great, or fangirl, fan person theories. Some fan theories are great, and you can develop on those. But that whole illicit relationship with Barbara and Bruce had no place in that. But anyway, moving on from that whole thing.
That was like fancy.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, okay, listen, I know this is still there's two things that I was thinking. I know it's technically still Batman. One, I need a Terry McGinnis Batman Beyond movie.
Sure.
I need it.
I would be okay with that, because at least it's not Bruce Wayne. We know everything about Bruce Wayne. I could tell you what color underwear that Bruce Wayne is wearing. I swear to God, at this point in like the iteration.
But he'd have to be in it though, wouldn't he? His cage, his room.
But it's not about him.
It's not about him, and that's the difference.
It's not about him and his trauma and him being rich and you know what I mean? Like,
I just hope they don't have some BS like where it's like in his armor, it's Alfred is like what he interacts with. Like the way Tony Stark is nervous. I'm like, please don't do that. Please don't. I hope they don't.
That's fine.
I would love a Terry McGinnis movie. I would also accept a series, but honestly, I want a movie. Also, I believe Terry McGinnis is not Isn't he Asian?
No.
Really?
No, I know he looks kind of.
Guinness?
His girlfriend is. His girlfriend is. But I mean, honestly, have we all like seen Batman Beyond?
He looks it. He looks it.
Spoiler alert. His girlfriend is Asian. Dana is Asian. But that being said, Terry is. It's just the way that he's drawn. He kind of has like.
But his mom too. His mom. I feel like his mom.
No, his mom is white. His mom is white.
I gotta go back and rewatch that.
You have to rewatch because she is white. Like she is like she might have red hair. I can't remember, but like she is white. And his dad, but his adoptive dad is white, and then obviously he is a clone of Bruce Wayne. So like as a clone, whatever combination of his mother's cells and Bruce Wayne, he's white. Long story short,
but he
just
doesn't
drawn.
Doesn't have
to be. Change them. Change the mom's race and you're fine. It's just like cool. He's anything.
Yeah.
And I would also like, and I know this is technically what Gotham was, but I would like a series about Gotham from Jim Gordon's point of view. Wow, words are hard. To just have Batman pop in randomly and then leave, and from Jim Gordon's point of view, he's like, the fuck? Like this.
I think Gotham could have been that if it was better written, and it's not. They were just like, oh, well, Bruce is still 10, but here's his entire rogues gallery. Why?
Your face just now. Why?
Just doesn't make any sense. And like where you could tell, it just doesn't make any sense because what I do think that the Batman, we're always going to get back to it, but what I do think the Batman did really well is showcase why his rogues gallery exists because of him.
Right.
And if you don't have a Batman, they shouldn't exist.
Right.
They shouldn't exist. It doesn't make any actual storytelling sense. So, I wish they would. I know they were supposed to do a GCPD based off of the Batman, but they scrapped that, and now they're just doing they're doing a bunch of spinoffs allegedly. That is like an Arkham Asylum thing. I would love to see them explore more of the rogues gallery in general, like other like ventriloquist. Not Joker. I was
not Joker.
Baby doll. All these weird ass characters that have popped up over the years. The Mad Hatter. It would be really cool to see.
He has a Hulk type villain called Blockbuster, which is like this big redneck looking guy who could just be like, I mean, imagine like having to watch like Batman fight the Hulk.
Great.
You know, like that could be kind of cool. Like, if it was like a Hulk level character.
I mean, most people don't know who Blockbuster is. I think that most people would consider Bane to be very similar. But obviously, it's very different.
He looks like a angry dwarf. Those trolls. He has a big hair, and he's like, I'm a big redneck, and I don't like black cars or black people.
Oh boy,
black cars and black people.
I'm gonna put that on a t-shirt. Check. But Rolls, who are some of the other ones you listed? I'm pulling up your email right now again.
Okay, so this is a good idea, right? Because Kirby was with DC before Marvel exploded and after. And when he was there before, he created a group of 4 men and an occasional female character who were called the Challengers of the Unknown. And the thing is, these are normal people, no superpowers. They were in an airplane crash and they survived. They said, you know what? We need to get together, like all superhero groups. We need to get together and challenge the unknown. And so they became the Challengers of the Unknown. And they had all these adventures. And the thing is, it's like they could fight a genie in one episode. They could go back to the past and be cowboys. They could be trying to stop a meteor from destroying the earth. They could be fighting a super villain. Like it's such a cool concept. And those 4 dudes in the beginning, and the thing is, of course, now you can have it be 4 women, or you could have it be 2 men and 2 women. or you could have all different kinds of like ethnicities, or you could have even people with disabilities. Like it encompasses everything. It's about people who are brave enough to challenge the unknown.
And I think that Eternals has started a conversation that I hope gets continued over time about they had a hearing impaired actress and more and more I hope we see disabled actors get represented and get representation in a way that feels natural and not forced for them or for the audience, because that doesn't do anyone any favors. You want to feel, when you get represented on that level, you don't want to feel like a token, but you also want to make sure that your identity is not being erased.
Yep. I love things the most when there's a character, like, this isn't DC at all, but the Dragon Prince on Netflix, there is a deaf character who they don't talk about it. She's just super powerful. She's a badass and she's deaf. And that's it. Like, they don't address it. Like, don't be like, oh, this person, like that just makes it so, it just makes it so gross. Like, we get it. You're doing this on purpose and it's very obvious and a little annoying. No, just have a character who happens to not be able to hear, not be able to see, and they're powerful as fuck. And we don't talk about the things that they can't do because they can do a lot more than you can.
Right. Facts. I hope the next time they do a Charles Xavier, that's not, we'll see what happens with Multiverse of Madness, but the next time they do a Charles Xavier, either an origin or completely removed from the people who have played him prior, I'm hopeful that they will get someone who uses a wheelchair.
For real.
Like...
Or who's an American.
I'm dead, but that's a whole other story. What'd you say?
So forgive me, world, for not recalling his exact origin story.
You're fine.
Was he in some sort of accident that brought him to the wheelchair, or I don't remember.
Well,
Xavier?
You can speak to this role.
In
the comic book.
Thank you. Yeah.
In the comic book, he went after somebody in a pyramid, and this person had a big like, I just remember a big like pyramid type stone falling on his legs and crushing them. And he was still able to stop the guy with his powers, but he was crippled for life from that point on.
Okay.
That's in the comic books.
In Days of Future Past, the stronger his powers got, the more he could not use his legs
because he got shot.
That's pretty interesting.
In what was it?
I can't remember. Literally can't remember.
One? First Class.
Oh, the first class.
And he gets shot by a bullet. I think Magneto shoots and it hits Charles or something.
Sure. Because like, was it the 60s? What was happening? Time.
Yeah.
It was. I was like JFK. I don't know.
There have been so many at this point that I'm like I really, when First Class came out, I was like, holy shit, I love this. What was the next one after that? Days of Future Past?
Days of Future Past. I always call it the Days of Future Past trilogy. I know it's technically the First Class trilogy, but Days of Future Past.
What was the third one? There was a third one?
Yeah,
Phoenix?
It was probably Dark Phoenix or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh no, it was the one before.
Oh, sorry, Apocalypse.
Which I did not see.
I did see. Trash. That's why I didn't see Dark Phoenix. I remember this now. This was the
I just did not like the casting of Sophie Turner as Jean Grey.
No, terrible choice.
No.
But I think that but even more to the point of representation, there are a couple people that I've talked to. They're like, maybe just it's really hard to put Charles Xavier to bed. It's literally the X-Men and it's literally his group. Like, how do you put the character to bed? But in that, you have to just create more opportunity for other characters with various disabilities or ethnic backgrounds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, there's that. But I think that would be
That's
really
why I think
cool.
the challenges would be good.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's smart. That's smart.
I like
You're
it.
smart. You
They
should
were still
email.
human after the accident.
Hmm?
Were they? Sorry, Rolls. Were they still human after the accident? They didn't have powers or anything.
Oh yeah. They in one issue, Kirby gave a couple of them superpowers just to see what that would be like. Everybody realizes now, looking back, that they were the beginnings of the Fantastic Four. It is
Right.
Fantastic Four, they actually gave them powers. They
Right.
actually said, okay, let's give them all powers.
Interesting.
Gotcha.
But yeah. Wait, I'm back in this email. So,
Um,
the question.
Yeah, that was one of mine on my list.
That was
Nice, Corinne.
Yeah.
Nice. What'd you run into the question?
It's one of my sister's favorite characters.
Mm.
She is very particular about the characters that she likes. So
Hmm.
when I bring it up here, you're welcome, Melody. I mean, but there's so much there to
Yeah.
work with.
I think I wish they would. They kind of tried to do this with Superman. Like they're like, he's an alien, as if he's the same kind of alien that would experience an illegal immigration situation. And like,
Right,
not,
I remember
not
seeing
quite
that.
the same. And
No.
they were trying to align it in that way. But I think what DC lacks for me is an understanding of what's happening in the culture right now. Marvel, almost every movie, what I have noticed, and as I've rewatched them, like I can't remember which one, maybe it was Civil War, but either way, there was something about fake news, or even if they didn't call it that, something about fake news, something about not trusting our government, something about the things that were happening at that time that really keyed into the pulse of what was happening. I think that's what Marvel has always done really well, actually. Something consistently in their comic book history. They've always been like, well, this is happening, so that, and this is happening, so that, and this is happening. Or even if that's not actually what they meant by it, they will attribute it to it. Like at some point we will talk about the Magneto, Professor X / MLK,
Malcolm X, yep.
thing. They capitalized on those similarities, even if that wasn't their original intention.
It's when you say, Marvel really pays attention to what's going on in the world. Thor Ragnarok was made, I believe, during the presidential election in 2016.
That sounds.
And then, because it came out Thanksgiving 2017, and I remember watching it and being like, "This is a movie for our time." Because you just have to think about Jeff Goldblum is this incompetent. I mean, the character you play, Jeff Goldblum, I love you.
We love you.
Is this incompetent leader who just does things because he wants to, and he's like, "I want it to be this way, so I'm in charge, and I want that." And it was like, he's like, "I don't like what you're doing. You're done. I'm going to watch these two beings play because it's for entertainment, and that's what I want. I want entertainment."
Because you're able to take what is the core being of the character from the comic book, but then align it with something that's actually happening and kind of play it up for the sake of drama, or for the sake of, it makes people understand what's happening. If they're like, oh, that character's like Trump, or oh, that character is like, because Isaiah Bradley reminded me. Oh, my brain's not going to remember right now. But in Falcon Winter Soldier, it's Carl Lumley's character.
Oh, right.
Yeah, if you're able to connect real life events to what's happening, it makes what's happening on screen seem less fantastical and more like something that you need to be concerned about, and something that you should be actively trying to fight or actively trying to support. And I remember when Black Panther came out. And I said, oh my God, this, or when they said the date that it was coming out, I said, this is coming out during Black History Month, in the year of one of the most important elections of all time. I said they're going to make people register to vote, and I was right. They had not election booths. They had a voting registration
at the theater.
And so many premieres, huh?
It was 2018, right?
Yes, it came out in 2018. So that would have been the midterm elections.
Yep.
That year. But they would have made the film the year either right at the tail end of 2016, I think is when they might have started principal photography, but they for sure were doing it during like the first year of Donald Trump being in office. And so we are witnessing on screen a Black leader in the aftermath of Obama. We're witnessing a Black leader on screen who got a lot of how he speaks from Nelson Mandela, and a lot of his idealism from this South African figure who was so important in the apartheid movement and in racial equality and progress. And so we now have Black Panther, who is made in all of those people's image, and you see the similarities, and that's why the timing of it was so smart, just so smart. Timing is everything, because people feel sort of, we already feel a certain kind of way about Black History Month being so short, or about blah blah blah, but now I can remember it as the time when everyone dressed in African garb, for some for no reason, because we don't know what our tribes are, but we wanted to be a part of something. And it was so important, and I think that's what I lack a lot of the time in my DC content, even though it's technically comic book wise, it's my favorite universe. They have the best single chapter storylines. The Arkham Asylum from the 80s, 90s. That the video game is based off of. A Serious House on a Serious Earth or whatever. But that comic. Then you have The Killing Joke. Then you have all these really small stories that are so pivotal to how we see these characters today. I can't name a Marvel singular comic book in that same way personally, but go.
Daredevil Born Again, Frank Miller, Dave Mazzucchelli, came out in '86, 7 issues, one of the best short runs in a comic book. Absolutely brilliant. Daredevil Born Again. Great story.
But in popular culture, most people wouldn't be able to name that.
Yeah,
whereas The Long Halloween, there's just so many
DC
and it's mostly Batman. Don't get me wrong. It's mostly Batman.
Yeah, I think maybe because Marvel did that so long ago. I think you're right. Maybe Marvel lost that. Because I remember there's a lot of the Dark Phoenix saga. There's the winter. There's a Thor story about the opening of this thing, the winter. They put it in a movie. This little box that opens winter. I forget what, but
I know what you're talking about. The Bifrost.
Yeah, a lot of them in the 80s. Yeah, a lot of them in the 80s and stuff, 70s.
Yeah, it's been a more contemporary. I don't know, recent memory. That is not something Marvel has leaned into.
Yeah.
No, they've always brought the real world. I mean, the fact that their comic books take place, most of their characters live in New York City and not Gotham or Coast City, or I mean, they've always weaved in reality, what was going on, into their comics. Always.
I think you bring up a really good point. I think that's also a huge part of it, is that I've always New York City is Gotham for me. Metropolis, I don't care what anyone says. Metropolis to me is somewhere in California, because that don't look like nowhere that I can think of on the East Coast. But in any case, what I think sometimes is a struggle for DC is that they then have to explain, this is Gotham is here so that you can understand where everything is. It's kind of like a map at the beginning of Lord of the Rings. When you read Lord of the Rings, they have the map. So you're like, oh, this is where Rivendell is. This is where blah, blah, blah. This is where blah, 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 blah. But you don't have that for DC, like a movie. Like they're not going to like do that at the beginning just so you can understand what's happening. You're just supposed to be like, okay, great.
Well, that's the problem. They don't exist they don't exist in a discrete universe of their own. They you know, DC was always like an artist had a studio and he created his own sort of like corner of the DCU. And that's kind of what they stuck to. And unfortunately, and he was so fortunate that Stan Lee was like, no, what if like, you know, Thor was just flying by the window, or we just looked out and Spider-Man was crawling up the building. And it just kind of, it really does make it super awesome. And like, you know, I think that's really like, I agree 100%. I think that like, you know, making things happen, bringing things into the books that are from real life is so important. And that's definitely why Marvel eclipsed DC. Definitely why. Definitely why.
I mean, Spider-Man is, aside from Mickey Mouse, and I can't remember the other one, he's the most recognized character ever, period. And part of that reason is because he's a Queens boy, and a lot of people are like, woo, New York. Like, you know, when New York is always a character in and of itself in a lot of movies that are not superhero related. So people can always be like, oh, Spider-Man, that's New York's hero. Like that's who we think of when we think of New York. We think of pizza, slices of pizza,
Empire State Building,
and Spider-Man.
Chinese food,
taxis.
That's Liberty.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I wish.
Could I hit on one more?
Oh yeah, go.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
One more. The Legion of Superheroes. That's it. But that might be a better TV show. Legion of Superheroes came out before the X-Men. They were the first teenage team of superheroes, and they come from the 31st century, and they came here because they were inspired by Superboy, and Superboy joined them. He went to the future and joined them. I think it might be a better series, but I think you could probably do it in 3 movies. You know, it's just that they have so many members. It's like the X-Men. When you watch those X-Men movies, if you're somebody who's like what I'm looking for, like you're somebody who's like kind of like you know, like when you want things to be exactly the way you remembered them to be all the time, those X-Men movies drive me crazy. I'm like, Rogue was on the same team with this person, and this person did come on the team first, and it drives me crazy, you know. But I mean, like, and so you know, again, the one thing that Zuri brought up that's so great is that the DC universe is not as well known as the Marvel universe, so you have a lot of leeway, you know, to do whatever you want to make the most interesting movies.
Right.
You know, like a 4-girl team of the Challenges of the Unknown might be really hot. Like just coming up with the best team of the Legion of Superheroes. They give you a flight ring, so even if you can't fly where you're from, everybody flies. That's bad. That's really cool. And the thing is that you can only be in the team if you have a unique power. And then so if there's already someone on the team who can turn invisible and make force fields, you can't join, right? And then they have another team, an offshoot called the Legion of Substitute Heroes, whose powers are terrible. You know, like they can't join the Legion, but they still formed a team of their own.
That sounds like an HBO Max series.
That sounds hilarious. That sounds like James Gunn's gonna do it.
Yeah.
He would kill it. He would kill it.
It's so good. But speaking of characters that usually don't get any shine, what I loved about the Suicide Squad is that they picked a bunch of characters, and granted, a bunch of them died, but they picked a bunch of spoilers. They picked a bunch of villains that no one would have any idea who they were at all. Because the original Suicide Squad, it was like everyone that you kind of know a little bit at least. Captain Boomerang,
Deadshot,
Harley, Croc.
Yeah.
Was it Croc in the first one?
Yeah.
Killer Croc.
Yeah.
Huntress.
Yeah.
And
I can't remember the last one. Wait. Something like that. But what I loved, I was like, who's the Weasel? Who's this Dot Man? I don't know who any of these characters are, but they made me laugh, and I was very entertained by the knowledge that you have to have of a character to be able to pair them up and put them in a group setting together where they're normally not in a group setting, and make either whatever their personality types or their powers make sense together in the same space and movie is really difficult. And I have to continue to give James Gunn so much credit for coming up with this movie, because it wasn't a carbon copy. I love the Suicide Squad movie, the cartoon movie from 2010 maybe. It's really, really, really good. It wasn't a carbon copy of that, but it's still called back to the styling of it. And I think he's just so smart. And and people were, when Peacemaker came out, people were like, why? And I knew exactly what he was going to do with that thing. I still haven't finished it, by the way, but
I haven't either.
But I'm about halfway through, but I knew exactly what he was going to do with it. I was like, this fucking man is so smart that it really, truly, it gobsmacks me, because he's a true fan. He's a true fan. He's not a surface level fan. He knows like the deep tracks only. Like, to quote Andy from The Office.
When you say, we were just talking about things, the reason Marvel's been so successful is because the timing for Peacemaker could not have been any better.
Yes.
I mean, I have not finished, but right now it's like you have this very unlikable person who was raised by a terribly racist man, and
I call him Terminator Daddy because I always forget his name.
He has been raised by Terminator Daddy.
Robert Pattinson.
No. Robert. It is Robert something though.
We looked this up a couple episodes ago.
We keep doing this.
Yeah, it's happened.
His official name is Terminator Daddy. Hashtag Terminator Daddy.
Viral. But it's interesting. I mean, because right now we're at a point in our country where both sides don't want to listen to each other. And we have this character who technically is on one of the sides that doesn't want to listen to each other, but who, through exposure to other people and other mindsets, is kind of realizing, oh, the world is a bigger place.
Yeah. I think what I've learned from this conversation in general is that James Gunn should be given carte blanche to do anything in the DC universe that he wants. Yes. Just let him take it over. Sure. The way that they tried to do, they're like, restore the Snyderverse. F the Snyderverse. I'm done. I'm done. I don't care. Because if you can't make a good movie, honestly, if you can't make the original cut of your movie, because let's not forget, we can talk about Justice League maybe, but Batman versus Superman was not good. So if you can't make the original cut of your movie good without changing a bunch of stuff and doing a director's cut, he did the same thing with Watchmen too. I don't think it's good. It's bad. Yeah. So anyway, James Gunn,
take it over.
Please take it over, please.
Punch out Zack Snyder. Take it over.
You heard it here first, everybody. Anyway, I had a really great time talking with y'all this evening. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of whatever week this is.
Hello, my name is Rose Andre. My pronouns are he, him, and I am an actor, an OG fanboy, and you can find me on Instagram at Rollsie, ROLLSIE. See you later, true believers.
Stanley, shut up. Hey, my name is Corinne Scott. My pronouns are she, her. You can find me on Instagram at I am Corinne Scott. Corinne is spelled with one R, two N's, and an E. I have opinions and pictures of my dog.
I have opinions. Anyway, my name is Sheridan, pronouns she, her. You can follow me on Instagram at Island Zephyr Cooks for food and stuff. No stuff, just food.
Just food. And as always, I'm Zuri, she, her pronouns. You can find me on IG at Zuri with a fringe on top. And don't forget to follow the podcast on IG at Super Black Podcast, or you can follow us on Twitter at Super Podcast. And don't forget, should you need heroes, we've got your back. We fear no topic we attack. If conversation is what you lack, you'll find it here with Super Black. Bye.
Bye.